So really excited for everybody to join us today. We're going to give everybody a couple minutes to join. Two questions that I always like to ask to kick these things off. First is, what are you shopping for this holidays? I'm shamelessly just looking for good gift ideas for my friends and family. And then second, we'd love if you could throw in the chat where you're from, where you're joining us today. I feel like we're gonna have a pretty good international audience. I know the three of us are spread out across the United States. I'm assuming we've got a lot of people in the US and then international as well. So, Julien and Isabelle, you all seen anything fun pop up for holiday gifts?
Oh God, it's so early to be thinking about holiday gifts. I don't know, you caught me a little off guard there.
I'm moving to Utah, so like skiing stuff, snowboarding stuff. My wife's also pregnant, so baby stuff is on the list as well.
Very cool. I think it's the snoo. We've had a couple of team members who have had kids recently, and that just seems like the #1 must-have for all parents.
And what is that?
Robot babysitter.
Save me a lot of money.
Yeah, and like I don't have kids, so I don't really know, but it's like a bassinet that there's an app and it like coddles the baby and rocks them asleep, and it's very polarizing. Apparently, either the parents love it or parents hate it and think it's not for them.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends with young children right now, and I've not talked to anyone who doesn't love it. So,
oh, that's good.
I think they have a lot of evangelists for sure.
Yeah, I feel like they have a stronghold on that market.
Yeah, I'll say in terms of we've been doing a lot of employee gifts right now, trying to keep morale up during COVID, just because everyone is distributed. We've been doing a lot of Airbnb gift cards, and those have been a big hit.
Okay, yeah, that's a great idea. I didn't think about that, but yeah, like I'm sure people want to travel, and especially over the next couple of months, I'm sure that will only ramp up. Very cool. Okay, let's get started. I'm sure people will continue to join as we go, but we have a lot to cover today, and I'm really excited to dive in and discuss for our second episode of Elevating E-commerce. Just a quick thank you to Skubana for helping us set everything up today. So just some quick housekeeping before we get started. Really boring stuff, I know, but I'm sorry, I've got to do it. I'm the host of this today. My name is Jeremy Horowitz. I'm the Director of Marketing Partnerships here at Daasity. I will be moderating, just making sure that we have an awesome conversation, answering any questions that everybody has. A couple quick things. Everybody is on mute, so if you have any questions or there's any trouble, throw your questions in the QA module so I know to ask our wonderful panelists. And then my teammate Dave is also on. He can help if anything pops up or you need help with anything. He'll be in the chat. Also, today's session is going to be recorded, so we'll follow up with everybody with the full recording. We also like to put together some of the hot tips, best highlights from all of our speakers as well in a quick roundup. So to get to the good stuff and why everybody joined today, I want to quickly introduce our panel. So Julien, I'm going to start with you. Do you want to give a quick background on yourself and what you all do over at Moonglow?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. So I am the co-founder and CEO of Moonglow. Had the company for 9 years. When we started out, we were basically doing like events, like live events, and kind of selling it that way. And then we got into wholesale in like 2015, where we started selling our product at wholesale to different retailers and started going to trade shows and growing up that channel. Then in about 2017, got into e-commerce and digital marketing, and we're really able to scale that channel to where we are today. Our warehouse is in Miami, Florida. We have a nice space there, and we're about a team of 25 people.
Very cool. Isabelle, how about yourself and the Harper Wilde team?
Sure. So I'm our VP of Ops and Finance. Harper Wilde is a direct-to-consumer women's intimates brand. So we say that we take the BS out of bra shopping, although we've recently expanded into underwear as well. We're fully digitally native, so started, D2C as a Shopify store, and then just started doing a little bit of wholesale this year. But we're, very much D2C is in our DNA. We're figuring out wholesale for the first time right now. The company was founded at the end of 2017. We have two co-founders who went to business school together, kind of saw a white space in the market to create like the cool millennial brand for bras, which are a super boring, price sensitive, kind of high replenishment item. And we're just about to be 20 people. So I think, Julien, we're similarly sized. We don't do our own warehousing though. We work with a 3PL based out of Utah.
Awesome, cool. Well, I feel we're gonna get some good conversation. Definitely two very cool brands. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so everyone can see all's faces. And let's just dive right into it. I mean, Q4 somehow is right around the corner. We've got to start preparing. So Julien, why don't you just kick us off with how are you all preparing on the operation side for Q4?
Yeah, we learned a lot last year, and we're taken by surprise. We had a lot of products selling out, and it was pretty wild. So this year we're preparing really by planning early, like we're placing our POs earlier than ever. We're also, with some of the factories that we're working with, we're trying to prepare them so they have all of the some pieces kind of like almost not in stock, but pieces almost ready to make quickly as we need them, so that they can ship it quickly. And then what we're also doing is we're preparing with some secret stashes as well of products that we don't really account for, that we just in case something happens, almost like an insurance policy, but that's what we're doing.
Nice. I also love how you described that kind of like your snack drawer. Like we have a secret stash just in case we run out of the main supply. So Isabelle, how are you all preparing for this big rush over at Harper Wilde?
I mean, honestly, pretty similarly, we're trying to get POs in as early as possible. Basically last year, we had some POs arrive in the middle of Black Friday, and it was just a mess. And so we made a rule for ourselves, which was no deliveries after October 31st period. And so we've all been marching towards that all year, which I think will really help. And that applies to packaging deliveries too, which our 3PL gets so overwhelmed. And I think that's also part of, one of the other initiatives is just keeping our 3PL happy with us. They're growing really quickly too. They have a lot of competing interests. Honestly, I've been bribing them the last couple of weeks leading up to this. I've been sending a lot of cookies. I regularly send cookies. And I really don't think you can underestimate the amount of goodwill that comes from just like surprise and delight stuff like that. I was at a boss years ago, give me a great piece of advice, which was like, be the client who's sending your warehouse pizza on Black Friday. You're going to get a lot more attention.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah. And then, I think the other big thing we're doing is just like eliminating anything operationally difficult. Like we have some kind of made to order products, and we have some custom like influencer pack out and stuff that we'll do during the rest of the year. And it's just been very clear kind of with our brand team that we can't do that during peak time. It's like, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, definitely. I always find also when you set that hard date with the team, you get so many of those requests early because that scarcity also really works well on the internal side. So what I'd love to know, because it seems like you're both really preparing to ramp up, is what have you done to really make your supply chain more resilient to prepare for this big ramp that we're going to see? So Izzy, I'm going to throw it back to you first.
I think the biggest challenge I feel like facing our supply chain, I think a lot of supply chains right now, is just actual factory space constraints. Because of COVID, our factories are working at, like 70 to 85% capacity right now. And so that's just had these ripple effects. And then the freight situation is crazy. Things are getting stuck at the port forever. And so I think, the larger thing we've done kind of all year is we've been really trying to move to all sea deliveries. And then at least we have the option to pull up those sea deliveries to air kind of as stuff hits the fan. And I feel like planning for sea, but having the optionality for air is always going to be your friend.
Yeah, definitely, versus relying only on air. So Julien, how are you also thinking about this to really prepare for the ramp up?
Well, one of the problems we had last year, so we sell jewelry, which are small pieces, and we were shipping first class mail, and stuff would always get stuck at the post office. Like we had problems with pickup, like big problems, like they would lose 50, 100 packages for like weeks, you know? So it was really bad. So we started working with DHL eCommerce, which DHL picks it up and it kind of bypasses like I guess our local post office. So that's been a big win for us because we had many issues with the local post office. But as far as the manufacturing end, we established a couple of different partnerships with different factories that we're working with to produce some of our products so that, we're not always relying on one single factory because what happened last year is some of them went down. There was huge delays and it was problematic for us. We're out of stock for long periods of time. So now we have a few different options and stateside from our warehouse, like we figured out our logistics here so the consumer gets it quickly.
Nice. Okay. So a lot of redundancy, a lot of plan as early as possible, make sure that if something does happen, it's early enough that you can tackle it. So it also sounds like you all have spent a lot of time taking last year and probably previous years as experimental learnings and transferring that over this year. So what are you all analyzing? What metrics or data are you looking at to really inform how to improve and what to focus on this year? And Julien, I'm going to throw it right back to you for this one.
Yeah. So, well, one thing is we don't oversell our products, which we did in the past. We had problems with that. We would oversell things that we don't have, and it really led to problems. So we're really making sure we don't oversell anything. So we also have our core line, which are some of our best products, our best sellers, and those we just make sure we always have like those products in stock, as opposed to like having everything in stock, which is almost impossible for us at least. So we keep those core items in stock so that we always have like the best sellers ready to go. So like I said, it's really about having a ton of stock and then even a little bit more in the secret stash on top of it.
Yeah, definitely. Because somehow the best sellers always sell out no matter how much you have of them.
Right.
So Isabelle, how are you all preparing and what are you kind of analyzing? What metrics are you looking at to really optimize for this year?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we do something very similar where we have we call it priority SKU ranking system. So we have priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3 SKUs. As priority 1 SKUs, we're a very kind of evergreen business. And basically that's our top 50 selling SKUs that for us drive almost 50% of revenue. And so, we watch weeks on hand very closely for those. And honestly, we like to sit, in the mid 30s on those priority 1 SKUs, which is stupid high, but it's just like we want kind of no risk at all of going out of stock in those, especially during peak time. And I think it allows us just to kind of simplify, it puts everybody's attention on these kind of core products. It's like marketing knows what to talk about. We know what to buy, like the warehouse knows what to optimize for. And so that helps a lot. I mean, I think the other like obvious metric that we look at is just, orders per day, so that we can be communicating to our 3PL effectively so that they can staff up. I think since we work with a 3PL, they don't have crystal balls into what our marketing spend is going to be. So it's just good to kind of keep them along for the ride so that they're staffing appropriately.
Definitely. And what metrics are you all using to just measure success or if things are going well? Like it really sounds like a lot is in the preparing stage, focusing on inventory, focusing on core SKUs. When we get into the weeds of it, what metrics are you all really looking at and optimizing towards?
Sure. I mean, so I think we measure priority in stock levels. So, I was shooting for that 100% priority 1 in stock. We measure order to ship compliance to make sure that our warehouse is, shipping things within SLA. We measure order to delivery compliance to make sure that customers are getting things kind of in the time frame that was messaged to them. We're also keeping an eye on ticket volume. So, we like to target below 20% tickets to order ratio to make sure that basically like that percentage will surge if something is going poorly and customers are having a bad experience. So I feel like those are the ones that we kind of keep an eye on in the moment when we're like swap mode.
Very cool. Yeah, it's also cool to work with the CS team because I feel like in that moment it's so high pressure, and make sure that those two teams are aligned is just I don't want to say smooth sailing, but the closest thing you're going to get to smooth sailing during this period. So Julien, what metrics are you looking at? What metrics do you really want to enforce during this time period?
So a big one for us is our chat response time. So when people actually do want to chat with a live agent, like we don't leave them there hanging for a few minutes. So we try to respond really quickly, 15 to 20 seconds. Our website bounce rate is a huge one. Satisfaction rate of customers using Yotpo, where we measure really just how happy people are. And the repeat customer rate is also a big metric that we look at because I think it lets us know how we're doing after the fact. Like somebody went through the whole experience, and I feel like if they really like it, they'll buy it again, especially that we're not really like a consumable good. It's a luxury item. So if we can keep it high, I feel really fortunate that we're doing something right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if customers are having a good time, they're definitely going to come back. So I think the other thing that a lot of people want to think about and prepare for is how do you all prepare for the big spikes in sales? Like if there's major promotions, how do you align that? How do you prepare that to just make that as successful as possible? So Izzy, I'm going to throw it to you first on this one.
I mean, so I think that's just a lot of this like pre-planning. I feel like we're, broken record on this. It's just like kind of having good visibility from marketing in terms of what the promotion is going to be. Is it going to be product specific so we can make sure to order enough of that? If it's going to be a specific type of promo, making sure that the site is kind of set up to accommodate that. And also kind of thinking ahead if there are going to be CX implications so that we can write rules ahead of that, so that CX isn't like figuring out how to respond to these tickets in real time. I mean, I think the other thing, and this isn't really like an ops related thing, but it is a holiday related thing, is that we keep a very close eye on just order level contribution dollars, because CAC just spikes like crazy around the holidays. And so we find it really important to align ahead of time on like what allowable CAC is, kind of given our COGS, kind of given the promo rate that we're going to be running, so that we know basically like when to cut it off if we need to.
Yeah, I'd say that's a very insider tip. So can you just quickly break down what allowable CAC and order line contribution are?
Sure. So order line or order level contribution is how much money you are actually making. So it's like how much money the customer pays you, less discounts, less product COGS, less fulfillment costs, less customer acquisition cost. So like how much money you actually made on that thing. And so I think some brands are comfortable losing money on a first order basis, which is to say that after CAC, they're comfortable spending a couple of bucks to acquire that customer, because, the lifetime value math nets out. I think it's a very personal decision and depends on kind of the repeat dynamics for your business and for your category. But just aligning as a company on what that is so that you can be tracking it, I think is what matters.
Yeah, I think those are two super important metrics. They're typically what investors will call your unit economics. And I always find it very interesting that the ops people are always talking about that metric. And when I'm interviewing marketing people, I rarely hear a lot of people bring that up. So I always find that an interesting difference.
Well, that's because the ops people are the most anxious.
Very fair. Yeah, the marketing people just want to keep pushing CAC up as much as possible. Yeah. So Julien, how are you all preparing for the spike in sales over at Moonglow?
And to add to that, like what we like to do is do a lot of GWPs as opposed to giving discounts. We find it works well. Also helps with our average order value because people are purchasing more items, and also helps in the bottom line because you're not giving a discount on everything. Sometimes the GWP is much lower in cost than the discount you'd be giving. So we're pretty big fans of always having some kind of GWP. But as far as spikes in sales, I mean, we fulfill our own orders, so it gets pretty hectic with spikes in sales from a fulfillment side. We're scrambling to make it work with people and everything, but we definitely make it work. But I think the first thing, I mean, is it goes back to the original thing. I mean, placing those POs in order, because if you don't have the product and it takes you months to get it, like you're essentially screwed. So you got to plan in advance and make sure you have that product. And right now, like we're placing all our orders for Christmas now. We have stuff on the way. We have stuff in the warehouse. Like we're super early for it, because if you don't have it, I mean, you just don't have it, So got to be ready.
Yeah, and somebody wants to spend.
If you don't have it, also, it's like, it's not just the missed sales number that hurts. Your CAC also goes up, because your conversion rate necessarily goes down when you're like sending people to a PDP that they can't buy anything on. So it's a real like double whammy.
I love how much we're getting into like the marketing conversion rate optimization side of the holidays.
All related, man.
Yeah, it really is. One good question that Katia asked is, what's a GWP? I'm assuming you mean gift with purchase as a promotion.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, on a $100 order, yeah, you could do 15% off, costs you $15, or you can do a GWP that may cost your business a couple of dollars, $2, $3, $4, works just as well, and encourages people to buy 2 or more items. It's just a much better deal financially.
Yeah, and also what I find is a lot of brands that like go into their numbers, they'll share the MSRP price of what the customer is saving, but then they'll actually calculate it against what their actual costs are. And you have a nice arbitrage there of the delta between those two as well, where those types of promotions are very effective and also can do a lot to help support your profitability. So what I'd love to kind of gear this conversation next to is, how do you take advantage and really prepare for all of this and toe that line between making a massive investment and over-investing, but investing just enough that you can take advantage of it? So Julien, I'm going to throw it back to you first. And how do you guys think about kind of towing that line between the two?
Sorry. Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah. So how do you think about making like really big investments and really scaling up your operations without over investing, so that you really find that balance of like, we take as much advantage of the situation as possible without being stuck in a situation where we're cash strapped later on? Yeah.
I mean, we've been at it now for 9 years. So there was certain years where we really hired people early on, and it was way too early, and it was really killing the cash flow. Like we'd start hiring people, early October or something, training and beefing up the team, and it really wasn't the best. So now we'll really start it's like scaling up the operations, at least for Q4, a couple weeks before Christmas. We have a really good core team of people on the fulfillment side that help out. So for us, it's really just hiring a couple of weeks before Christmas. And then beefing up the customer service after Christmas as well, because that's when all the tickets come in, and people want to do returns and whatnot. So making sure they're taken care of very quickly is how we do it.
Very cool. Kind of like just-in-time staffing.
Yeah, exactly. Because then having a lot of staff, like we'll beef up staff by 15, 20 people sometimes, because those 21 days for Christmas are insane. So it's a lot of payroll, right? Like you have a lot of people, so you really gotta think of it financially, so that you're not killing all your cash flow.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a really fine balance. And also aligning that to time with your promotions must be a fun game of just shuffling a lot around.
Yeah, we use Airtable a lot, so everybody on the team kind of knows what's going on, like on the SMS side, on the product side. Like, so everyone's pretty aligned. All the information is pretty transparent. So that's helped a lot.
Cool. All right, Izzy, same question to you. How do you think about underinvesting, overinvesting, finding that right balance during this time period?
I'm a big fan of not building anything that's not our core competency, that's not going to be like real value add to the customer. I think that was really the lens through which we decided to use a third-party logistics provider, instead of doing our own warehousing and fulfillment. It's like, what we do really well is make really comfortable bras, and we're a really strong brand. Like we're not going to beat Amazon at fulfillment. So like, we're going to let somebody else do that. And I feel like we take a very similar approach to kind of the ops software that supports us. For example, Daasity is like, when I joined, we were thinking about building our own data model. and hiring an analyst, a full-time analyst. And I was like, okay, that's not our core competency. Like, I know, like there's somebody who's doing that better. We're going to be able to onboard it more efficiently. And also, I mean, things are so volatile in startups. It's a lot, if things go poorly, it's a lot easier to let a contractor go than to let a full-time employee go. If things are scaling up really well, it's a lot easier, I think, often to onboard a contractor than to onboard a full-time person. So I guess that's the lens I kind of use there.
Yeah, definitely. Buy versus build is always one of the most difficult decisions everybody has, but especially if you can afford to buy it and it works well, that always will work out really well because you can spin things up and down as needed. So speaking of technology, we'd love to figure out, if you all are using an inventory management system, what impact has had on your business. I'm assuming inventory management is a pretty big time and focus area for each of you. So Izzy, do you want to just kick us off with kind of, if you're using inventory management system, what kind of impact has it had for you and your team?
Sure. I mean, I think having an IMS is kind of table stakes if you're selling things online. Like without an IMS, Shopify doesn't really know what you have for real. And so if you don't have one, like get one. I think, for us, we don't multi-warehouse, and we mostly just sell through Shopify. So we don't have a lot of the kind of inventory management considerations that brands that are multi-warehousing and selling multi-channel do. I think if you're doing that, that's where like a tool like Skubana is pretty invaluable. For us, like, it's pretty dumb. It's like one warehouse, one distribution channel. So we've been able to get by just using our 3PL has an in-house IMS, OMS. I think having a good OMS is also really important because at the end of the day, it's like all that software exists to make sure that the customer is having a seamless experience. And so the role of it for you as a merchant is just to be able to get in front of problems and make sure the customers don't know about them. And if they do, to reach out, correct?
Definitely. Just one quick question for anyone who doesn't know what OMS is. What does that stand for?
Oh, sorry, order management system.
Yeah, so your inventory management system, your order management system. Okay.
Yeah, our 3PL has a combined IMS, OMS, WMS, which is a warehouse management system. And those are all one tool. A lot of people will have those, piecemeal and integrate them.
Very cool. Okay, kind of like one tool to rule them all on the ops side of the business.
And it's free also, so that's that's nice.
It's part of the consideration. So Julien, same question to you. How do you all think about your inventory management system? What type of impact has it had on the business?
It's had a big impact. We didn't invest early. It was a lot of hand counting and long counts, and we had problems with overselling things that we didn't have in stock, which kind of led to a bad experience. Because we had to tell people, it's not going to be in stock for like 3 weeks, and so we did invest in Skubana, and it's really been a big help, especially putting the wholesale channel and the retail channel. And sometimes we'll still do some like festivals and events and things like that. We'll send product out there. So it really helps put all the channels together and gives us clarity as to what's happening. And most of all, we don't oversell any product now. So it's, we just let things sell out and try to keep our core pieces in stock.
Very cool. I'll say for anybody who's doing bundles, beware of virtual bundles and overselling without a IMS.
You want to go into that a little bit more?
I think a lot of people try to increase part size, and we're one of them, by doing these virtual bundles, which looks like a bundled SKU to the consumer, but is pulling from component inventory in your warehouse, which means that you're showing a single SKU as available, as a component, but also in all these different bundles. And like the dumbest way to do it is to set up each of those bundles as a bundle SKU in Shopify, which then needs to be translated through an OMS to your IMS. And there are like a lot of places for things to break there. And I feel like that is one of the most kind of consistent headaches for early stage D2C brands trying to do bundles. Like I've had so many scar tissue conversations with other other ops leaders about like, oh, bundles. So just beware of bundles and never launch them for the first time ahead of holiday.
I've made that mistake before. So do you have any advice through all of those conversations and experience on what the smart way to do that would be?
So unbundling in cart is the dream, is to let the customer kind of shop a bundle from a site merchandising perspective, but then have that exploded in cart, so that it's only the components that are being sent to the warehouse. It's also way cleaner data. I mean, I think one of the big investments that we made, honestly, coming into this holiday was we did make that web dev investment and bundle explosion, which was a big project. But we did it by tagging at an order line level in Shopify. And then like we have that set up so that when those orders are sent to our 3PL, they know exactly what the components are. We also have like split ship rules automatically set up so that people can buy bundles, but we'll fulfill what we have, and then we'll send them a second shipment if something's out of stock, just to automate all of that so that we're not kind of scrambling in the moment. And it's beautiful, worth it.
Very cool. I feel like you're going to start a side hustle of like a CRO consulting agency or like on Shopify builds. We've had a couple of questions come in. Izzy, what was the name of the tool where you combine the OMS, IMS, WMS? That was through your 3PL, right?
Yeah, so we work with a 3PL out of Utah called iDrive, iDrive Fulfillment. They have a proprietary OMS, WMS, IMS. It's called Blue Box. So if anybody wants to talk about iDrive, I'm happy to be a reference. We've been with them for a long time and I have a lot of good things to say about them.
Cool. Okay. So Julien, you've been talking a lot about overselling. So how do you all think about, like, how do you manage that? Do you ever include that in the plan of whether we oversell and do pre-orders or we oversell and just ship later? Like, how do you think about when or how you do that during this time period?
Well, the short answer is we will not oversell, because things always happen. And even if we think we're getting stock in a week, well, could be stuck at the border for like a month, and then that doesn't really translate good to the customer. So we really make sure that we don't oversell. But normally what we'll do is we'll do pre-orders for like some of our VIP customers. So we'll do SMS and let them know they can purchase something early, like a new product launch. And then we'll open it up, and then when it's gone, it's completely gone.
Yeah, and it's great because you can use the like secretive exclusive event as a marketing tactic, but really it's there for the ops benefit. Yeah, cool. Isabelle, how about you all? You all think about how do you manage overselling pre-orders over at Harper Wilde?
We similarly really try not to oversell ever. I think one of the most helpful things we've done on that front, very logistically, is we had our 3PL write a rule in our IMS, which is that anytime a SKU dips to 10 units or below, they have to do a hand count of that item. So like the system is always looking for things that haven't been counted in the last 30 days and have, inventory less than 10 units. So that, it's like if you had an issue with receiving when you received 1,000 units, like that shows up all of a sudden when you get down to the bottom of the bin. So we do that. We have buffer SKUs is what we call them, of 2 units. So, if we think we have 2 units in inventory, we're pushing 0 to Shopify. If we have 4 units in inventory, we're pushing 2 to Shopify, which helps because you will always have timing issues. Like there is a chance that 2 customers order at the same time for that one item. So that helps. In terms of like true pre-order, we did build the functionality to do true pre-order. And we built that out with our web dev team because we had a really rough out of stock situation and we just needed it to hit some revenue targets. So we said, if we're going to do it, we want to do it right. because I think the biggest thing there is just like customer messaging. So we control that in meta fields now. And so our CX team is able to go in without the help of web dev and say, like, here's the expected ship date. It shows up in red on the PDP. It shows up in red again when they're checking out in the cart. So they know when it's coming. I think the other really important thing about doing that is that it did allow us to automate split ship with our 3PL and split ship with Shopify. So like if Shopify doesn't know about the partial fulfillment, your customer is not going to receive that like second shipment order notification, and everything is just really manual. Then CX is needing to reach out and provide tracking manually. So we do it. We invested in building it, and we won't do it if the customer is going to have to wait more than 2 weeks is the other thing, because we found that 2 weeks is a real cutoff point when people go from being understanding to just having a negative experience.
Yeah, definitely. Also, that split shipment must be huge, because that's the one challenge that I remember from my days when I used to do this was you either had to hold the order and not ship the other items out, or ship it twice and then you didn't get that second order confirmation email, and then that opens up all the Wizmos for customer support, the what, where is my order tickets, and then it's just kind of it's almost not worth it to deal with all that headaches post.
Yeah, so it's like, I feel like if you're gonna do it, you really, if you should be leveraging that Shopify partial fulfillment functionality, because it really does work.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so because preparing for inventory seems to be a very big focus, my other question is, are you all using any predictive analytics or predictive inventory systems to really get ahead of this spike? So Izzy, I'm gonna throw it back to you. Are you all using anything to just really start to predict out what inventory levels look like?
Sure, yes. So we have all of our evergreen SKUs on what are called ladder plans, which are kind of these beast Excel files that are like true bottoms up weekly plans at a style, color, size level that our planners manage. We recently onboarded also with an inventory planning AI, the software called Singularly, that seems really cool. But we're kind of in between right now. So we're doing ladders and we have this kind of software application. Those two things together are really helpful. I think, you know, a predictive inventory model is also only as good as like the inputs that you're giving it, and those inputs are often for D2C very dependent on marketing and kind of what those spend levels are going to be. And so I am pretty dogmatic about using both bottoms up and tops down forecasts and having everybody like lock eyes and say, you know, where's the difference here? So.
Yeah, that's probably a good fun conversation with the marketing team to get them to sit down to actually give you the budgets. For anyone who isn't familiar, can you just at a very, very high level talk about like how the laddering system works and just generally, I'm assuming that lives in Excel.
Yeah, I mean, so those live in Excel. It's called a ladder because it kind of looks like a ladder because you're planning it out just by week and then by SKU. And they're incredibly tedious but worthwhile exercises where a human person is kind of looking at sales history, looking at builds and debuilds and saying like, how many units of each of these things do I think I'm going to sell every week? They're considering things like cannibalization from new product launches. They're considering things like pent-up demand from out of stock. And they're considering uplift from promotions that are being run. And that I think is really powerful for companies that have a lot of sales history, where your historicals really mean something. It's really hard for early stage brands, which is where I think you especially need that tops down, which is like, how much are we spending? Like, what's the CAC? What's our repeat customer rate? How many customers is that? What's our AOV? Like, what does that get us from a top line number? Like, do I have enough inventory in the warehouse to hit that? Do I have enough inventory on order to hit that consistently? And I think those are the hardest and most important conversations to have. Because that's if you're not aligned, that's where feelings get hurt and business is tough.
Yeah, definitely. I also feel like those conversations need to happen now. Like I remember there's always an aha moment, and it's usually on both team sides of it's like, uh-oh, we're not gonna be able to run that promo, or like, uh-oh, we need to place another PO. So I find it very interesting of like how you balance that out. So Julien, are you all using a predictive inventory system, or how do you really think through how you want to predict inventory out for this season?
Yeah. Funny that you mentioned we are definitely planning for Q4 right now and having those conversations between marketing, what we think we're going to hit financially, and exactly how much stock we're going to need, what we need to buy. I mean, all that stuff is being done now, is in the works. And we're planning ahead of time as well. We're actually planning 2022 out now. So we're just trying to get a head start as much as possible, which is not something we've done in the past. We have been around for 9 years, so we have a lot of historical data. So we look at what we think we're going to hit financially, then we create a marketing budget, and then we essentially make sure that we have enough inventory to hit that. Again, we wholesale and retail what we call the core line, which are products that, like I said, those we always have in stock. They're also our best sellers. And then the other items that we bring in, new collection drops and so forth, those we will, try to figure out how much we think it will sell. We won't go too crazy at first, because it's happened in the past where we thought it was going to be a hit and it just wasn't. And then you get stuck with all that inventory for a long time. So we just don't want that to happen. So we'll make a smaller first drop, sell it out. And if it goes well, we'll bring something out similar, but we always keep kind of those best sellers in stock so we can send to all our retailers, and we can fulfill all of our e-com orders as well.
Yeah, I feel like those early drops are another like ops innovation that's also a gift to the marketing team, because if you can sell out and then you have all that social proof of this sold out, it's super popular. It also makes it so much more popular when you drop it before, because there's that scarcity to it that I couldn't get it before, everybody loved it, and so now I need it. And then are you all using any is that like all those projections living in Excel, or is there tools that you're using to help you all just map out this entire process?
Go ahead.
Was that question for me or for her, for both of us?
For both of you, but I'll throw it to you first.
Sure. I mean, we use Skubana quite a bit to at least plan all of our inventory, and making sure that we adjust all of those like reorder triggers on certain products, especially going into Q4 where you're going to sell a lot more products. So making sure that's all in line. And we have those hard conversations between marketing and the buyers to all agree on, what we think we'll need.
Cool. And for anybody who's a reorder trigger, is just automated PO? Yeah,
basically.
Very cool. Okay. Izzy, you had somebody you want to throw in there?
Oh, sure. So we don't do reorder triggers based on like a number of units in stock. We basically set a target weeks on hand threshold. And then we also have crazy complicated MOQs and MCQs because of our SKU complexity and our product type. We do bras, so it's like we got to hit underwire minimums and like little like strap minimums, like the whole thing. So what we've found really helpful is, that the planners kind of each own a ladder, and then they're coming together and doing a monthly buy review meeting where kind of we're all locking eyes about what the financial investment is, kind of what the PO milestones are that are coming up. And then this tool Singularly that we started using seems like it's going to be really cool. That's theoretically, we just migrated our whole on order into there today, actually. So that's going to serve as our single source of truth. We're also feeding them our marketing budget and any like promotions that we have coming up, and they have a real-time Shopify integration. So I'm pretty bullish on that long term.
Very cool. Yeah, get the team out of Excel, and then hopefully most of that manual lifting the tool will do. Julien, I just want to ask you, do you all have a similar reorder trigger system, or do you have a different recipe for how you plan it all out?
Definitely very different than yours. And I don't think our product is as complex as what yours sounds like with all the different components. That's interesting. So no, it's pretty simple, really. Like we also like a quantity on hand, but we're really just setting those reorder triggers based on quantity. So it's nothing really too complex for us.
Cool. Yeah, must be nice. Hits a certain number, immediately place that PO, bring it in, and then I'm sure it just levels up in the upcoming months as the expected orders are going to become a lot bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Okay, so we've only got 15 minutes left. I've got 90 million more questions, but I want to open it up to everybody in the audience. So if anybody has a question, please shoot it in the Q&A. I'll ask it. So I have one more question while we wait for other ones to come in. Without getting too deep into your exact PO schedule and calendar, roughly when are you placing those POs, and when are you thinking about placing final POs to make sure that you're ready for everything that's coming up in the next 3 to 4 months? So Julien, I'll ask you first.
I mean, we have POs right now for Q4 that are being constructed or on the way. So we're pretty much purchasing everything right now, like for Q4. But we keep a good eye on inventory, and we do accounts pretty frequently just to double check everything, at least on some of like the best sellers that we spoke about. But as far as Q4, like we're buying everything extremely early this year, which we haven't done in the past, but we kind of learned from last year a little bit.
Nice. And what would you say is that kind of final PO date? Like you're not gonna, it's now or never if you want to restock on anything.
Probably like I'd say September. It's cutting it real close, like September 1st.
Okay, so like a week and a half.
Yeah, I mean, for some of those items, because if it's 30 days, and then it's got to get here, you've got transit 35 days, and then somehow there's way more days that just happen, and then it could get stuck at the border. It's a lot of different things happen in there that's always seem to happen to us. So we like to plan early.
Yeah, definitely avoid all of the headaches. Izzy, same question to you. When are you thinking about placing POs? When's that kind of final date where if it doesn't get in this year, it's going in 2022?
That ship sailed in July for us.
Wow.
Our lead times are really long. Yeah, I mean, we also, it's not just a question of like a drop dead PO date. We work really closely with our vendors on TNAs. And so we have drop dead production booking dates, then we have drop dead grage booking dates, and then we have drop dead, like PO dates. And those are all separate triggers. We're ordering right now for late Q1, early Q2 deliveries of 2022. So it's just long. The thing I do want to say is that I've been getting a ton of feedback from our paper suppliers. The paper industry and packaging has been hit really hard with this surge in e-commerce. And so it's so hard to get boxes and mailers right now. And so, I mean, I bought up a couple of months ago because our suppliers were saying like, hey, we have a big paper price increase coming. And so I bought like a year of supply. So like, it's gonna last. I just want a lot of boxes and mailers. I never want that to be the thing that like hamstrings sales. But if you have not placed your packaging orders yet for Q4, you should do that like today or yesterday. Yeah, it's a problem.
I laugh. We have run out of packaging, and it was a huge problem. So I laugh because it happened to us, and we were extremely just screwed. We made it happen, but it was not a good situation.
It's so stressful when it happens, and you're like, oh my, it's like packaging, like we're freaking like, oh.
We're literally running down to the jewelry district in Miami, like filling up a truck full of like jewelry boxes, trying to like hot stamp them, like doing what we can.
So I always feel like when we talk internally, we keep moving these webinars up, and I feel like next year we're just gonna start these in February. When did you all start holiday planning, and when did you all start like placing POs then? I mean, Izzy, if everything's already passed and everything happened in July, were you all starting to plan in like April.
Yeah, I mean, so we design in halves. So basically, I can bring this up. So for Q4, like all of that development stuff, I mean, we needed to be locked. Yeah, like May. We needed like the line list and financial reviews and all that. And because it's also like there's so many steps leading up to placing a PO. It's like you need to do the product development, then you need to do the line list, then you need to do the open to buy. Finance needs to come in, do a financial review. You need marketing to audit that. You need to do like cash flow analysis. So it's a lot of steps.
Yeah, Julien, same question for you all. I mean, it sounds like you all are like pretty done placing POs as well.
Yeah, I mean, we already have the 2022 calendar as far as like product launches and everything. So really Q2, we're starting to put those POs together, and the beginning in Q3, like we'll send them out.
Wow. Okay. All right. We may actually do this webinar next year in like February. So Ken had a quick question. Izzy, for the inventory AI system, is it called Singular Intelligence or Singulary?
It's called Singuli, Singuli.
Okay. And we in the follow-up we can like link out and we can find a link for that.
Yeah, it's basically like a really smart multivariate regression model. Like it's the sort of thing that you could do if you're like an R nerd. Like it's the sort of like but it's just super robust, and it's kind of like an ERP light also, which I like.
Very interesting. Okay, so I probably should have asked this at the beginning of this, but I'm just so fascinated because as we dove into the conversation, roughly how many SKUs, and we don't need an exact number, but just a range or just a high level number, like are you all managing tens of SKUs, hundreds of SKUs, thousands of SKUs, tens of thousands of SKUs? I don't want to say hundreds of thousands of SKUs, that sounds ridiculous, but like what rough range? Because it sounds like there's a lot that you all have to manage at one time. So Julien, I guess I'll put you on the hot seat first.
I think we have around 590, 600 SKUs.
Okay. Izzy?
I think we have about 1,400 SKUs in inventory right now, but we only have about 900 of them actually live right now, because we do a lot of limited edition drops, and so we'll buy a color, and we'll release it briefly, and then we'll hold it for a couple of months, and then we'll bring it back as like a capsule, or we'll embroider it, do some value add. So each of those, embroidery products gets another SKU, so we end up with a fair amount of bin proliferation.
Because you have a lot of variants, right?
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, thinking about an underwire bra, there are 31 sizes per CC.
And colors.
Yeah, it's just we SKU proliferate very quickly.
Wow, yeah, that's like I can't even do the exponential math in my head. If you offered like 6 colors, what that would be. Yeah,
we're very careful about introducing new core colors, and we try to keep a lot of our limited edition into we have alpha size bralettes and underwear, and it's much easier to do color there.
Definitely. So you both have mentioned limited editions a lot. Do you all specifically plan and drop limited editions during the holidays, or is it just more of an evergreen part of the strategy?
Both.
Okay. So yeah, let me take that back and ask that way better. So it sounds like limited editions are part of the strategies. How do you all plan and think about it for the holidays? Because to me, the great risk reward is it's limited edition, so it'll probably sell out and then drive a lot to other products. But if it doesn't work, then you're kind of stuck with a limited edition item for a long time. It's like, how do you balance that?
I guess Q4, the good thing is people are shopping. So, if it doesn't go well, you can slash the price a little bit and just move it. So it's not a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be our first Q4 doing a really big kind of limited edition push. So the short answer is I don't know yet. I hope we planned it right. I think the other thing that we've really been thinking about in terms of limited edition is having something ready for like end of December, early January, where it's like you kind of like empty your funnel all at once, because it's like the big thing that gets people to shop is discounts. And so it's, I think most retailers tend to have a very soft, week or two kind of after that initial influx. And so Harper Wilde fans we're planning to launch some exclusives kind of like right after that, to try to get some of our existing customers kind of back during a time when it's hard to get people shopping. I think the same thing is also true in October. Like every retailer I've ever worked at just has a really soft October because you have all these customers who are like basically conserving cash, where it's like, I know it's going to go on sale in November, so like, why am I going to spend anything right now? And so it's like you kind of need some sort of exclusivity, like time sensitive promo to get her to shop then.
Yeah, and that's another great strategy that the marketing team can really use, because then they can drive a ton of traffic to that earlier event where traffic is cheaper, and then retarget, remarket, send emails, SMS follow-ups after that as well. So yeah, really big fan of that strategy as well. Okay, so in wrapping up, I love to ask all of our panelists the same question. So my final question for both of you all today is, what's one tip, it could be anything about e-commerce, but just has to be holiday related, that you would recommend that everybody takes as a piece of advice heading into this holiday season? So Julien, I'm going to put you on the hot seat first again.
All right, let's do it. I would say don't overspend on marketing. There's been years that I overspent, but during the holidays, it's good anyways. So sometimes I focus so much on chasing like the revenue number as opposed to the bottom line number. So don't overspend on marketing.
Definitely. Cool. All right, Izzy, bring us home.
Curry goodwill with your warehouse partners. They're the ones who are actually going to make it happen.
Send them pizza.
Yeah, send them. Yeah, have a pizza budget for the end of the year.
We also do pizza in our warehouse every single week. So I guess it really is the secret sauce.
Pizza's a thing.
Yeah.
Very cool. Oh, we actually have one last question. Okay. How does everyone fulfill a large amount of orders for the same SKU? There's a long explanation here, but I'll throw that to if either you want to take that before we head out.
Sorry, is the question asked here, are you talking about setting like picking rules?
Yeah, so currently we batch create the labels within ShipStation and provide these labels for warehouse to ship. I believe lots of large size companies have their own warehouse scan each order and print each shipping label at the time of scan. Just wondering what have worked in eliminating mistakes and shipping efficiencies and labor and accommodating for higher volume.
We don't do our own warehousing, but our warehousing partner basically sets pick rules that are based both on priority. So like when in the day an order was placed, how many units are in the order. So they're picking, orders with more units first, and then going down to the onesie twosies. And then they also have rules kind of based on aisles. So, those orders are getting sent to different pickers so that the pickers are, mostly consolidated into single aisles where the bins are. If that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Julien, do you have any piece of advice?
Yeah, I believe we batch them by like shipping type. Obviously the ones that people pay for like next day or 2-day shipping always get priority, or versus the standard we put like 3 to 10 business days. Obviously it gets there a lot quicker, but for like the free standard shipping, so I always prioritize those. And I believe we also segment by like zones based on where it's going.
Very cool. Okay, awesome. Well, I know both of you are insanely busy. I just want to thank both of you for joining us. I have one last thing that I've got to share, or else I wouldn't be able to continue to host these, and they're so much fun. We have another event in the Elevating E-commerce series. Episode 3 will be September 15th, where we're going to partner with Just Uno about building your list. And now that you have all these awesome operational activities, now go promote and sell a lot of how to prepare for all those events. So I just want to thank both of you for joining us. I want to thank all of our attendees and hope everyone has a great day.